Hi, I wanted to welcome you to the Divorce Planning Podcast. I'm Carri Goldring, and I'm in the mortgage business, and I do planning pre-divorce for people who are either going to refinance their home, do an equity buyout, or plan to purchase a new home and make sure that everything in the divorce decree is worded properly and the numbers in the planning is taken care of so that you can go through the underwriting process smoothly. And I would like to introduce you to other people who are interested in the divorce planning process so you can get a real education of what's involved. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, today I have with me Lauren Blake, who's going to give us some information on a mental health topic, and we're going to talk about, this is not going to roll off my tongue, reunification.
Reunification.
And I thought first I want you to introduce yourself and thank you for being here, and then maybe we can just start off with what is that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, my name is Lauren Blake. I am a marriage and family therapist. I have a specialization in trauma-informed care, and I've been providing therapy for about 5 years. And reunification therapy is one of the primary services that I provide.
That's so wonderful. And I know you've been referred by many attorneys that I have worked with. And we were just talking about how you end up in court a lot, having to suggest and go over different things. So, what is reunification? What does that mean?
So these are families where very often it's after a split or a divorce. It's the separation of a parent and a child, and reunification therapy is the effort to reunify that parent and child from their estrangement. That's kind of the overarching umbrella of what the term is. You can do a quick Google search and find out that it is a hot topic. There are a lot of organizations and communities that are very opposed to it. And there are a lot of people who are absolutely for it and say it is a required type of therapy. So it can be a conflictual service, but that is the ultimate goal when you see a family come in for reunification. That's what we're trying to do is reestablish a relationship.
And does it come up in multiple ways? Like, does it come up where the attorney is learning about the family and they're like, oh, well, the kid never sees parent A, so we should suggest this? Or how or why would it come up in terms of a divorce?
Yeah. I see some families where the actual process of the divorce during the time that they were being served or while one parent was moving out, that there was some kind of blowout, some type of conflict, and the parent and child haven't seen each other. That can range from 2 weeks to 10 years. I have some families who come in where they haven't seen each other in a long time.
Wow.
I have one where it was a mom and dad. They split up because dad was in active addiction. Dad got sober. He's now been sober for a few years, and he feels like he's ready to get back into his child's life. It's not usually an attorney pushing it. It's more a parent pushing it. You'll see an attorney push towards reunification therapy if the attorney thinks that going straight to parenting time is not a good idea. Whether that be supervised or unsupervised parenting, reunification therapy, it kind of automatically slows the process down. You've got guided conversations, and it's just an extra safety precaution when reintroducing a parent and child.
So does this come up as in other times that aren't divorce related, or no, because you don't have two separate households?
All of the families that I've worked with have been separated and divorced. Now, not all of them was the estrangement because of the separation or divorce. Sometimes that's the case. But in all of the instances, they were in a relationship at some point and had a child and broke up. That has been consistent with every one of my cases.
And it would be the parent that's been estranged would more likely hire you and say, hey, I want to start seeing my child, and then you have to approach the other parent to say, this is what we want.
Yeah, so it goes, there's a few different ways that it can come about. So sometimes if a family um, agrees between attorneys or agrees in a mediation, one parent will reach out, and we always ask for like the phone number and email address of the other parent, and then we reach out to the other parent. We don't chase clients. So if someone, I think we make usually about 3 attempts to reach out. Very often the service is court ordered. I'm seeing more and more often where a court order will come in and it will say that the parents have to contact me within 7 days, where there's like a deadline put on for like, you need to start this service. We can't just drag our feet on that. So sometimes they come in through orders or through agreements. Um, I've had a handful of families where it didn't even go through mediation. It just, they each hired an attorney, and between the attorneys, they made the decision together that this is how they needed to start. And so it can come on collaboratively or court ordered. I've seen both.
And it's good obviously for the child to have that relationship if it's healthy.
If it's healthy, that is the big what if. And that's
Right.
something that I tell a lot of my kids. This is a cheeky joke, but I've said that I have 100% success rate in kids not wanting to do this. That is that the exceptions. I have some exceptions with kids who were really young, who didn't know the details of what was going on. But very often these are children who are confronting an adult, a parent, where there has been some level of conflict or breakdown. And I know a lot of adults who can't confront their own parents. So asking a child to do that is a really scary, really intimidating thing.
Right,
Um,
you need help. And
yeah,
then you could probably help communicate, I guess, the breakdown, right? To start rebuilding, because sometimes it gets so crazy that you don't even know how to get back.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes reunification is successful and sometimes it's not. Just because I get an order on my desk that says reunify, that does not mean that we are always going to reunify. For me, the health and safety of the child is of the utmost importance.
Of course.
And so there are some families where you can reunify. There are some families where what we really do is confront. That's kind of been my buy-in with some of my teen clients. I reframe it from reunification therapy to confrontation therapy. And I word it as like, not a lot of kids get the opportunity to confront an adult in their life for doing something wrong or doing something that bothered them, with another safe adult present who has your back. Like, that's
Right.
you're my priority. I'm not going to let anything happen to you in this process. And then on top of that, my practice is virtual, so you press a button and this all goes away. I find that teens especially are way more vocal over a screen. And so
For
that's why I've
sure.
actually opted to not go in house yet. I am all virtual, because
Well, who would want to go back in the car with your parent after saying
right.
things and you're all worried about, I could just see the parent going, why did you say this? And you're grounded and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So I like that there's the space. I like that there's the space after session. But
Yeah, I
that
think
does bring up one of my heavy rules is what we talk about in session. We're not going to talk about outside of session. That's one of the very first boundaries that I put in place. Um, and I tell both my parents and my kids, if anyone breaks this rule, you tattletale, you tell me, because we're gonna have a problem if we're talking about this outside of session. And
absolutely.
I do that because I don't. If they knew how to communicate, they wouldn't be with me, right? Like, if they
Right?
could have these conversations, they could have them on their own. So I want those to be really restricted.
That's very smart. And it's so interesting to me how things like this come up because someone's going through the divorce process and has the court process. It seems like there's so much more help that you get in terms of mental health or legal help or financial help or whatever it may be, because you're in the process of going through divorce. These things kind of become available to you, or if you're just some regular everyday family with kids, you don't get all these extra inputs in that probably every family needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think everyone should be in therapy. I think that is I joked with someone that when you turn 18, like everyone should be required to have like 8 sessions,
Right.
just someone to talk to, that's outside of your world, maybe has a different perspective or can challenge the way that you think.
For
And
sure.
a lot of times within reunification therapy, I am teaching families how to fight. There's nothing wrong with arguing. There's nothing wrong with
Right, because how do
disagreeing.
you, who teaches you, right? And in
Right.
a normal family, you don't get to learn
Yeah.
those communication skills that they're good for life, right? They're good for everything, for your family, for your job, for your friends, for whatever. Yeah, no one teaches you. Just like no one teaches you financial stuff. So I run into, people all the time who don't understand what a credit score is or to budget or how much of their income should go towards a house payment, like because no one teaches us this stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is really really sad.
Yeah. It's a disservice. I recently saw something. I saw it on the internet, so it must be true. But I saw something about establishing a basic financial class and then a basic emotional regulation class for high schools.
I
Um,
like it. I would
I think,
volunteer to do it a hundred
oh,
percent.
it would be so helpful because these kids, I mean, you're going in blind at 18, you're taking out student loans, you don't know how you're managing your money. You learned your emotions based on mom and dad. And I think that's what's so fascinating about the family law aspect. So often parents come to me wanting me to work with a child who is exhibiting the behaviors or characteristics of one or both of the parents. And it's now unmanageable for the parents, even though they behave in the same way. And I think that's a fascinating, helping families learn their patterns and behaviors, where it started, and what it needs to look like. It can be fun work, honestly.
That's awesome. I know. Where else can you pay someone to like just keep all your secrets and say things that are in totally your best interest, right? Like it's not like a friendship that has to go two ways. This gets to be 100% selfish. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the best invention ever as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
I agree. I agree. I think that it is I don't know. Everybody that I work with, I tend to see a lot of really good progress just in the way of how you think and how you interact. And I mean, even this week, there's a family that I'm working with, and I work with a lot of like attachment style and kind of how we deal with stressors. So like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And it's interesting to talk to families and well, what are you when you're mad? Do you go fight or flight? And what is it that you do? And we identified an incredible pattern with the family last week where the parent is fight. They want to address, they want to deal with the topic. Let's figure this out. Child is freeze. And so child kind of shuts down, panics, doesn't communicate. Parent sees this as disrespect. I'm talking to you and you're not responding. Like you're
Mm,
ignoring me. And then parent is escalating because of that. Child is shutting down further because child is freezing more. So we found this loop. And so we had to identify, well, what will keep the child from getting into that response? What is creating such a fear response that we're reaching shutdown? And what do we need to do so we can have a conversation instead of this really awful pattern that we keep looping in?
yeah, that is super cool.
Yeah, I like resolving it turns into a funky little math equation.
Do you have to where I see like someone will get like they feel bad and inferior so they get mean or they say nasty things? We have that in our household. That's our dynamic. One of my kids I feel like always feels very inferior and
Okay.
then he reacts by being mean.
Interesting. So I would go more about when with that kind of dynamic, I would go more about like trying to figure out what being mean resolves for them. Like what is it that they get out of being mean? And does it work? Do they ever get what they want as a result of being mean? Very often I find out that poor behavior exists because it's allowed to and it works.
Right.
And so that's where I would go with that. Because I don't think anybody wants to be mean. If you're acting that way, you're getting something out of it. There's something that you're doing. Um, unless you're dealing with something more significant, like, personality disorders and things
Yeah.
like
People are very, very interesting. That's
that.
for sure. So would anyone ever hire you who's not going through a current divorce process, but maybe they're listening to this and they're like, oh, I have this child that I just haven't spoken to in a long time for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
I wanna get back in touch with them.
Yeah, I have a lot of families that come in where they were divorced 5, 10, 15 years ago, and something happened that led to a breakdown between the parent and child, and they're wanting to mend that. And I've had adult children as well. I've worked with adults and adult children, so usually people who were like in college or in their 20s, and they had a breakdown with the parent at some point, and they're trying to resolve it. So
That's
any
awesome.
parent child breakdown, divorce or not, that's what reunification therapy is for.
That's awesome. What a good invention.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. It can be. It really depends family to family. There are some families where you absolutely should not be participating in reunification therapy. And I think that you have to treat every family differently based on the problems that they present and based on the functioning of the child. That's
Right.
what we've got to figure out first.
But I bet you it's good to know that too. Like, you always wondered, well, I never was able to speak to my parent, and then you try to resolve it, and for you to even validate it and say, you know what, you're better off not in that relationship, is
Yeah.
probably a nice thing to hear also.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that more with some of my older kids. I have I had a family where the child was 17, and had some pretty big frustrations with both parents, but had more frustrations with one parent over the other. And I remember there was a session where we talked about the fact that they can grow up and choose to be nothing like either of their parents. If they want, they have the opportunity to get into therapy and unlearn some of those behaviors and characteristics, and really self-develop into the adult that they want to be. And they've been given an excellent example on who they don't want to be. And boy, I'm sure that would be painful if the parents ever knew of that conversation. But I think that that
Right.
that can be an empowering thing for a kid. A lot of times a lot of times kids will look at their parents and they feel like they're doomed because their parents were doomed. They're like,
Right.
this is how they behave. Like, I got no shot. And
I could
and
see that.
you can absolutely build a life beyond what you were raised in.
It's so fabulous. If I had anyone who wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Email would be best. My email address is Lauren, Lauren, at blakefamilyconsulting.com.
That's awesome.
My website is blakefamilyconsulting.com as well. And on my website, we list our services. My CV is listed, so you can see my educational background. And that's the way to reach me.
That's so fabulous. Anything you want to close with before we sign off?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think we really covered a lot today. We really covered the gist of this work, and yeah, I am interested in helping families heal and mend, and that can go even the individual route. That is, with parents where reunification has failed, and it's an adult or a child who is needing to process the loss of that relationship because it will not reunify. I think that's the only other side of the coin that I think also deserves relevant care, is the grief process of being unable to reunify. That's worth being noted too.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your
Or
time. I really appreciate you doing this with
Thank
me.
you, Carrie. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'm Carri Goldring, and if you ever have any questions regarding mortgage, feel free to give me a call or send me a text message, 248-420-4524. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.